I'll take you through some highlights of what's going on in the economy, and then be glad to take some questions and try and make this as lively as I can make economic development be for you. So we'll go through some high points. Maybe next slide here. So anybody here major in economic development in college? Anybody minor in it? Anybody take a class in it? It is kind of a weird field to be in. So you might say, what is it? Why do we do economic development? Well, the key thing is to improve the standard of living, to raise the standard of living for people so we can afford more services, so Brett can raise more money for good causes with the hospital he's involved with and so forth, a better standing of living, helping businesses create jobs. Right now we can say job creation is very strong, but 5 years ago we've gone through a very challenging period. So we try and do that. We also try and expand the tax base, diversify it, so there's more services available for people. And finally, to look at sustainable. You saw in the crash we had in 2006, we had a lot of quick money, but it didn't last. A lot of the mortgage-backed securities and so forth really didn't pan out. So try and take a long-term view for our economy. Next slide. And just to kind of take away, I think, for you is how we're doing. We've had a very strong rebound from the recession. How many of you are seeing your business better this year than last year or 2 years ago? Anybody seeing a stronger? Yeah, really, I think we're seeing a lot of strength. We have a record number of people in jobs in Sonoma County, 255,000 people working in jobs. We have the highest tourism occupancy, hotel occupancy in the state of California. 77% occupancy in Sonoma County hotels. That's really, we're beating San Francisco, which is pretty amazing. And we're number one now in the state for export revenue per capita. Very strong in our exports. What's being exported? Wine, maybe some craft beer, olive oil, cannabis, I don't know. And while we are expensive here compared to perhaps parts of Florida, compared to the Bay Area, we're a bargain. We have the highest standard of living in terms of quality of life, and yet the most affordable homes in the Bay Area. What's our median price per home here? I think it's around over 600, 650, depending on the month. Right, Clark? And what's the median price in Marin County? Close to $1 million. What's the median price in San Francisco? 1.2 million or so. So it's absolutely crazy. So we are a bargain in relative terms. So we tell companies looking to come. Next slide. So things we do, I'll touch on these. We help companies get started. Why are entrepreneurs important? Why would we want to help entrepreneurs be successful? Pardon me? They stay in business and they start a business. We're talking about Henry Hansel, the Hansel Company. He started, I think, a dealer down here, eventually bought his father out. But look at the business, the jobs that Hansel has created. The Clover Stornetta, starting out with Gene Benedetti and on the legacy that's created and keeps, I should say Clover Sonoma, the way they've grown that and so forth. So entrepreneurs really, and the larger scale, I mean, Amazon's going for a second headquarters. I mean, it's pretty amazing what one entrepreneur, Jeff Bezos, has done with that one company. We also provide a lot of economic research, mainly for companies looking to relocate. They want to know what the cost of living is, what are the taxes like, so we have lots of data for them. We have a fellow that reaches out and spends time with companies that are growing, helping them grow, giving them services so that they can expand. We have a program called Creative Sonoma. Anybody know what that is? Creative Sonoma is around the creative economy. What's the creative economy? Anybody? Performing arts, visual arts, yes, and also in the nonprofit side. The for-profit side might be Lucasfilms, for instance. Just think what one man has done for the creative economy, not only in Marin, but for us as well. We benefit from that. So it's the fusion of art and technology. We're really seeing a lot of that going on now. Videos, films, a lot of independent production in Sonoma County of movies. And finally, workforce and talent development. So we'll go through these in a little bit more detail. Next slide. So we do a lot of things. We have a program set up with local financial institutions. $250,000 they've made available to loan out to entrepreneurs that want to get started but can't get traditional bank financing. This may be people coming from a different culture that don't have any check banking history. but also local people, if they've been unemployed, they want to start a business, everything checks out as being solid, but they don't meet all the federal requirements. That fund, we've been able to loan out $250,000 already. We're going to have a second tranche coming up there. I think one great example, we were able to make $40,000 available to a Hispanic, two fellows that were starting a restaurant near the old G&G store up in College Avenue in Santa Rosa. That place just boomed, so they got a second restaurant going with another loan. But when they want to start their third restaurant, they'll have a credit history to be able to go out and get a traditional loan from a credit union or a bank. So that's kind of, it's self-interest for the banks. It's helping them grow a new customer base. That we think that's very important to have a strong Latino business community. We have a guide starting a business. We have a business assistance hotline. People can talk directly, call up somebody and ask for questions, ask for assistance with him, and then we help people with their business plans. Next slide. We do a lot of economic forecasting. A lot of the reason we have all this research is companies looking to relocate. They're looking for, should we come here? Should we go to Marin? Should we move down to Monterey? Would it be cheaper over in Contra Costa? Should we leave the state and move to Idaho? All sorts. We try and make the case, have information for them so that they feel they can move here and be successful. Next slide. We have a service through the federal government called the Small Business Development Center, funded by the Small Business Administration. This provides a lot of technical assistance. So Joanne might want to open up an Australian travel service with her new situation over there. But you may not know much about bookkeeping. So this is free. You can take free classes on bookkeeping through the Small Business Development Center. Help people get incentives to green their business, help them get state tax credits. Over the last 5 years, we've been able to get utility discounts, sales tax reduction, and or state utility tax credits around $5 million for local companies to help them stay here and grow here. These are companies that were looking to leave, so we've been able to get them, that's hundreds of jobs. And then lots of research for marketing. We make mailing lists available. If you want to reach target demographics, we can provide that all at no charge. Next slide. I mentioned Creative Sonoma. That's pretty cool. You might want to have Kristen Madsen come sometime. Have you heard her? Oh boy. Well, then I'm just a warm-up act. When you have Kristen come, she's got a tremendous presence, just doing terrific things with Creative Sonoma. She ran the Grammy Foundation for 20 years. Wanted to come up and live in Sonoma County, so we feel very lucky to have her here. You're in for a treat when she comes. Next slide. Other things we do around workforce. Why is workforce so important? Huh? Well, workforce really, if you don't have a good workforce, can companies stay here? Will companies move here? It's really an important thing to have workforce. So we do a lot of services for companies to get reimbursed if they're going to upskill their workforce, need some training to upskill their people so they can be competitive. We want them to stay and get that reimbursement. We put on a job fair. We've done with Anita Pellegrini several job fairs in Petaluma. When Athletic closed, for instance, helping people that work that let us stay here. There's a lot of talented people, wanted to keep them in South County. So these are free to employers to look out for people to hire. We work with JobLink, which we used to call the unemployment office. Now it's known as JobLink. And then we do various reports on the on the market economy for jobs, simply because everybody's looking for employees. What's our unemployment rate right now? 3.5%. We have the 5th lowest unemployment rate in the state of California. And if you took away the tech counties of San Francisco and Santa Clara, Alameda, we'd probably have the lowest rate. If you take away the boom, that kind of tech boom, we'd have the lowest unemployment rate, which is a great thing unless you're an employer and you can't find workers. So that's the dilemma we face. Next slide. So let's look at Petaluma. We do a free forecast every year for the city of Petaluma and the Petaluma Chamber that they make available to companies looking to come. We really try and answer the questions companies have, kind of a teaser of what if we move up here, what's the population growth expected to be, how much do houses cost, what's the age of the population, particularly if it's a retail store. So we'll look at some highlights here. Population, you'll continue to have some growth of population. In 2021, the forecast is around 62,000. I think if you've heard Keith Woods talk, he would say this is slow. you've got slow growth. You're not growing very quickly, but you are continuing to grow in Petaluma, as is true of the county. The county's population is 505,000, we've gone over 500,000. So it's a slow, we grow at about half a percent a year. So we're not really growing very quickly, but it does add up over time. Next slide. Age projections, the dark blue is showing 2021. Are you surprised to see there'll be more people over 65? No. And look what's going to happen in even the middle age, or 25 to 41. That group will be growing as well. What's going on? Okay. We'd like to say getting more mature, I think would be the way to look at it. We are becoming more mature and not just Sonoma County and Petaluma, but also the whole country is getting older. And that provides both opportunities and challenges. But for companies looking to come, if they're looking to reach an older demographic or look for workforce in the Middle Ages, this gives them at least some idea of what sort of workforce they may have or who they can sell into. You know, when we do our forecasts every year, one of the things we see is that Petaluma and every city really has a 20% less of retail stores than the national average. Why do you think we have fewer retail stores in Petaluma or Sonoma County than the national average? Sorry? Tech savvy, what else? Huh?
Buy online.
Buy online. Too many wineries, right? Just put their money into alcohol, right? Well, anybody else grow up in northern climates besides me? Anybody put up your hand? Bedroom community. I think all those add up, but I think a lot of it is we don't have a real winter season like you'd have in the Northwest. I can remember we were 4 kids. So my mother would have to buy 4 sets at least every year of mittens, 4 sets of boots, 4 coats, all that. Are people buying that here? No, pretty much all year you can wear the same clothes. So I think we're down in retail simply because there isn't that seasonal aspect. Sorry?
I wouldn't even have thought of that.
Oh, well, I could be wrong. Next slide. Show you an unemployment rate. You are below the county average in unemployment in Petaluma. Isn't that great? Yes, unless you can't find workers. If you're trying to hire people at the restaurants, like here, that's a problem, isn't it? So it's a two-way street. But it is, as I said, very low. You really take the cake in Sonoma County for that. But overall, we have a very low unemployment rate compared to the rest of the state. Next slide. Employment by top industries, even though retail is not as big as it might be in the northern climes, it's your second biggest sector. When you're downtown, it certainly is vibrant. I think I've been impressed how the antique sector has done so well through the years downtown and really has helped keep it alive. It's a real asset. But downtown Petaluma, whether you go here in the daytime or when I go to give a talk at night, it's booming. It's just delightful to come. And there's a certain large city to the north that's becoming very jealous of how well, what's Petaluma doing? It's very interesting to have them say they want to look at Petaluma for their model, how well they've done at having a vibrant evening world in Petaluma. So your retail sector is very strong. Number one, of course, is healthcare. Is that surprising? Healthcare, of course, very strong around the county. Educational programs, it more or less fits the profile. But at least we have that for people looking to relocate, what sort of employment people are in, and what's the talent base to draw from. Next slide. Your average home sales price, it's it's right about the average for cities around the county. You'll see that Healdsburg is number one at almost $1 million. Pretty amazing, isn't it? What's made Healdsburg worth $1 million and Cloverdale not? What's happened? Wineries?
The downtown.
Really good restaurants? Tourism?
Limited inventory.
Limited inventory. Right, yeah. All that's true. I think also Healdsburg went through a very intentional process about 15 years ago to brand themselves. They had an architectural group come in from around the country. And I think they've done a very good job at making them become kind of a destination for any Sonoma County city can do that, I think is the point. Sonoma prices are high. Why is Sebastopol prices so high? Why do you think they're so high? They're new. It's guaranteed, right? Yeah. What else? They have more nitrogen, yeah? What else? Sorry? All right, how many, when you go out to Sebastopol, do you see any new homes being built? And do you see people moving out of there or just staying there? A lot of the boomers are just aging in place. I gave a talk out there a few years ago showing that it's the only city going to lose population over the next 5 or 10 years. And there were 2 city council people there. They said that can't be true. So I thought about it, and it was a Rotary group. I said, well, of the group here, how many of you had kids living at home 15 or 20 years ago? Most of the people raised their hand. How many of you have kids living in your house now? Almost nobody. It was kind of a boomer group. So then I said, how many of you that had kids 15 or 20 years ago have those kids live in Sebastopol? Did one hand go up? All those kids have left. So Sebastopol, it's very hard to find housing. They're not building new housing, so it is expensive. Now it also is where a new growing industry has arisen. One might also note that aspect too. It's got a favorable location for growing industries. Next slide. Things we've got coming up that may be of interest. Next slide. We're going to have Manufacturing Day. This will be where kids from 6 different high schools with engineering programs will be brought together to tour 2 different manufacturers. From there, they'll go to the junior college and watch the older kids, 2 years older than them, making products using new equipment at the junior college so they can see there's a career path for them locally. And then they'll go to a place called 180. It's the very south part of Santa Rosa. The tech companies have gotten together and they have all sorts of things for tech people, kids that want to play with, make things. It's called a makerspace, so it's called 180. It's at 180 Todd Road, and it's really kind of a cool. It's all private money, all local businesses, and it's great for kids to see. This is where if you like to make things, there's all sorts of mechanical things to get involved with there. Why would it be important to have a manufacturing day to show kids about manufacturing?
There's not enough people doing it.
Not enough people doing it. And when they've done surveys of kids, what do they think about manufacturing? Is it clean? No. Is it a good place to work? No. Is it environmentally polluting? Yes. So the idea is to bring that type of kid that likes to make things, is interested in technology, in to see local manufacturers so they'll stay here, go on to the junior college, and then go on to jobs with our local manufacturers. It's a national program. This is the first time it's been done north of San Francisco, and we think it'll be pretty cool to get that going. So it'll be held October 6th. Next slide. This is the year of the senior. Our average age in Sonoma County is over 40. It depends who you talk with. If you took away the Hispanic population, it's probably 45, which makes us part of on an equal basis with Japan, which is considered the oldest developed country in the world. Marin would be even older. So we really have an older population, but that presents opportunities. The county and the cities are starting a program called Age-Friendly Sonoma and Age-Friendly Petaluma to really reach out to that population, show them there's facilities and resources really for the tourists, for them to come up here and spend money in stores. If the stores are age-friendly, if you stay in hotels, they're age-friendly. There's all sorts of resources. Simply become as the boomers retire, they'll be looking for destinations that are welcoming, and so we want to facilitate that. Next slide. We have a new strategic planning process going on to look at our economy, to diversify it, to look at workforce, simply because that's so key right now with the aging of the workforce, to support entrepreneurship in new ways, and to come up with some new growth opportunities. In addition to cannabis, what are some other new growing areas that we can exploit in Sonoma County and create a better economy looking forward? Next slide. So kind of to summarize, I think compared to the Bay Area and other parts of the state and country, we are really the best bargain for people to live in and to have a business. Our costs are lower than most of the Bay Area, much of Southern California, and our quality of life is really high. We do have a very diversified economy that's broadly growing very strongly. Lots of new resources we have for people to be entrepreneurs and get started here. The problems we're facing are not unique. We really have a shortage of labor, workforce, That I think will continue for a while until the next recession. And then housing is still too expensive. At a median price of over $600,000, it's still too expensive for the average young couple to relocate here. So we've got challenges to work on. A lot of efforts are going on in these areas, but there's lots to be, I think, proud of for Sonoma County. Next slide. Well, time for questions if you have any, if you're still awake. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Suppose you have a manufacturing company or R&D company that can go anywhere, and they're considering Sonoma County and maybe somewhere in Texas. What are going to be the major factors that are weighing this decision? What's going to be in our favor? What's in the favor of their system?
Excellent question, and ironically, we're working with that situation right now. We've got a local company, a tech type company that wants to grow. They've got expansion plans. They've been bought by a national company, and that national company would like them to move to Texas. In fact, Texas flew up a team a couple weeks ago to meet with them and roll out the red carpet. So we're nowhere in a competitive match. We can offer them, however, training, levels of workforce training that Texas can't. We've gone into them with that offer. We've gotten some state incentives for them that will make it very attractive for them to stay here. The state's very interested because it's a tech company. We don't want to lose technology companies. They've returned so well to the community and the income they generate. And then finally, I think the other thing is because it's a local company, the employees want to stay here. They're not eager to move to Houston. We've got some advantages. Texas has more subsidies, more incentives. I'm a great believer subsidies are not the answer because it's not sustainable. You can't just keep subsidizing an operation. But if we can show that from the state that they do want them to stay here as a kicker to get them to stay here and provide the workforce training they need to meet the standards, then that's a good investment because it will leave a stronger company and keep them in Sonoma County over the long term. Does that answer it? Yeah.
Is taxation an issue?
Yes, and it's California taxes are higher both to live here and to do business. But then it's just hard to beat life in California for many people. They just is that premium, and we're lucky. This is a company that started here and grew here. It's of a good size, but they really want to stay, even though the taxes are higher. There's a trade-off because they can get these young engineers. This is still a pretty great living for them compared to Texas. Yes, sir.
Right. We have thank you. You said it's tough to find labor. With DACA, the deferred program, how will that affect our economy? And apparently California has the highest percentage of DACA with Sonoma State and other places.
Yeah, I can't give you any exact numbers on that simply because it's kind of a shadow world there, but I do think there are a number of people that are young people that I expect they'll maintain it. They'll find a way through Congress to maintain it. I don't think it's probably, they'll find some way. But I do think obviously you've got these young people who've gone through the education system here, they've got talent, and they're younger people that are needed in the economy. So I can't give you a quantified number because it's kind of hazy. I got the first question was yesterday from the Press Democrat. It just hasn't been something we've quantified, but obviously these are generally a younger group with education, so they should be, everything that can be done to keep them here is probably useful.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
I just have a comment. I work on First Street in town, and on our street is a satellite office of a company from the peninsula. So I saw them out front, we were chatting one day, and they said that about 30, 40 employees are now, because they live up in Sonoma County, the company down the peninsula opened a satellite office in Petaluma, so their people didn't have to commute so far. So are we seeing any more of that, or is this just an anomaly?
It's kind of, I think it will be coming. I think it's becoming kind of the traffic's gotten worse with everybody working, in tech, the traffic. A few years ago, they were saying how it was pretty easy to drive around Silicon Valley. It's come back to its usual. So I do think there's a market. There's a co-working space in Petaluma, and a gal named Natasha runs that. I think some of those people are taking advantage of that. I think we'll see more of it as companies realize they can't if you think our prices are high for housing, it's just unreal down in Silicon Valley. So to be able to have people with, Skype and so forth, be able to, technology's making it much more. So I think I've had people come in the office, they want to do that, set up some sort of a network. So I think you're seeing the first signs and more of that will follow. Yes?
As an old retired counselor and kids we used to have in group, we used to discuss everybody in their family has an alcohol problem, everybody has somebody in their family that's possibly gay, but now everybody in their family has somebody that's living in secret and is frightened because of DACA. And that's a workforce that's two first age groups. And I was at my state retirement meeting yesterday on my board meeting, and there is a gigantic problem because every one of you knows somebody that's worried about their immigration problems. And I think that will have an impact on our county. And I just wish we had some plans to help them no matter how it turns out. And I think that's an economic issue. And the fear part of it touches everyone in this room. You all know somebody that's worried about their immigration. I just
It's a
want
good
to
question.
share that.
I will see what services are being planned. This all came up pretty quickly, but I will see, and I'll get back to your president, to Chris, and let him know. Oh, are they? Okay. So the efforts are starting then, yeah.
Do you see a value of the smart train?
Yeah, I think they're seeing it.
That's my answer.
I guess that's no. No.
Yeah, I think
From what I've read, it's the paper was saying they're meeting pretty much their goals. They were going to have around 3,000 commuters a day. They were having a strong turnout for the weekends. Time will tell. The weekend maybe tourists or local people just taking a ride. But it is just another resource towards the population. That if you look at the map, there's a lot of people. More people go to Marin than San Francisco for their commuting. Believe it or not, it's amazing how many. There's kind of we have people come from Mendo and into Sonoma, and there's kind of a food chain. So a fair number go into Marin. So to the extent that helps facilitates that is addressing that need, I think. It'll be interesting. They do have hopes for the tourists on the weekend. That's yet to be. I think that's just recently emerged as an opportunity. We'll see how it turns out, but that could be another aspect as well. Any other questions? Yes.
Ben, you've been doing a great job for many years, and I'm kind of curious as to how you've been doing your job, how it might have changed. I know you have a very strong focus on government, on cities, and then on businesses. And I'm just wondering, how has your job changed over the years? And I don't know, the politics from the people you work for. Just give us an insight on how that works.
I think it's been transformed. I've been doing the same thing so long. I like to say it's a testament to a lack of ambition. But the world I knew when I started there in 30 years has just, the electronics, the Skype conversation, office work. I remember we used to get copies out of the machine. We have to line them up and then if we wanted to do double-sided, put them through. They'd usually get jammed up. Yeah, things just, it's so office work. I suppose one of the biggest things is office work has become much more pleasant. I look back, it was so physical, and there was so much to do, and liquid paper would gum up the Selectrics, which were cool to have, and so the offices have transformed. We have an intern here, he just doesn't know. And typing papers in college, remember getting all that done? And the footnotes and all that, and now all that's done electronic. There's no justice, it's just so easy. And Google, I had a very good relationship with the Central Library with their reference desk. All the calls we used to get, and they would call me with questions, I would call them. Now they just go to the internet. We've got fabulous resources up there for information that's all current, up to date. So on every front, it's just transformed. And really the situation when I came, the boomers were just entering really the job market and taking over, and now we're seeing this big wave of seniors, becoming an economic opportunity. So, on every front, I can't give you any one thing, but the businesses are able to operate so much more efficiently. They're able to get the information, get the resources they need, never fast enough and everything. But overall, look at, When we started just with our film program, we have a film program that the BBC would call up, and we used to keep files, a whole wall of files of pictures. If they wanted red barns, we'd send them over pictures of red barns, and then they would, by FedEx, and then they would send them back, and they would say, we're going to be over, we want to look at red barn number 3 and number 5 and number 9. We'd line up those visits, and then we had a full-time employee that would take them around. You'd be surprised how many commercials are shot up here. Now with the internet, they can get around on their own. We can make that arrangement for them very quickly. We don't ship stuff to them. They're seeing it in London as fast as we can see it. So it is transformed, and I think that's true of all business. Things have really, but overall, generally for the better. Would you want to go back to the 70s or 80s and with the world we knew? You would like to go back? Oh, back to the future, right? Well, there's always somebody, you know. Yeah. Oh, just by age. We'll all join that. Yeah.
So Ben,
Anything else?
Yeah, I'd like to, Ben, if you could stay a little longer. I'd
Sure,
love to
Chris.
have
Oh,
you
I'm sorry,
stay.
yeah.
No, that's fine. But we'd love to have you stay. So thank you very, very much.